She was smirking at the cameras, pointing at her eyes like she was filming a TikTok video. Sitting in that Aurora, Colorado courtroom on September 5, 2013, facing charges for taking her own mother's life 151 times with a knife, 18-year-old Isabella Guzman was making faces at the news cameras instead of showing remorse for one of the most shocking cases in Colorado history. The courtroom was stunned. Her lawyers had prepared an insanity defense. But what everyone witnessed that day wasn't the behavior of a remorseful teenager or even a calculated offender. It was something far more disturbing. Something that would reveal the depths of a mind completely severed from reality. Her own mother was gone forever, and the proof was all there in her contradictory statements during police interrogation.
You're not getting out of jail. It makes me physically sick to look at you.
Do the DNA test that will prove me.
Don't tell me how to do my job.
I watched Forensic Files.
Really, Isabella? Does that make any goddamn sense to you?
Stop calling me Isabella.
That's your name!
No, it's not.
No conscience. None.
I'm not evil. You don't even know who I am. I'm just a random girl on the street that you ambushed.
This is the chilling case of the teenager whose mind shattered so completely that she created an entirely new identity to escape the trauma of her own actions. Every detail has been verified through court records, police reports, and psychiatric evaluations.
You left her to die. Brutally. On a bathroom floor.
I did not murder anyone. Please stop accusing me of this.
Just tell me how that feels.
Please fingerprint me. Please fingerprint me. Please fingerprint me. I will show you that I am not this freaky, horrible person. Call me Isabella. That's
your name?
My name is not Isabella. My name is Samantha. There are people in this world who look alike, you know.
If you want to understand the warning signs that families missed in cases like this, make sure to subscribe to Women of Crime. We break down the psychological patterns that could help prevent future tragedies. On August 27, 2013, Isabella Guzman got into a heated argument with her mother that ended with her spitting directly in Yunmi Hoi's face. Her mother was used to difficult behavior, but this crossed a line. What Yunmi didn't know was that this single act would trigger events ending in unimaginable horror just 24 hours later. Isabella had been born in Aurora, Colorado, raised as an only child, but from her earliest years, something was different. She showed behavioral problems so severe that when Isabella was just 7 years old, her mother made the heartbreaking decision to send her to live with her father full-time. Think about that. What kind of behavior from a 7-year-old would be so concerning that a loving mother would feel she had no choice but to send her child away? Isabella's parents had divorced when she was 3. The early disruption clearly affected her, but changing households wouldn't solve the underlying problem growing inside her young mind. During childhood, police were called to their home several times because neighbors thought they witnessed break-ins. It turned out to be Isabella's boyfriend entering without permission. While this seemed like typical teenage rebellion, it was actually part of a pattern that no one fully understood. Isabella lived with her father for several years, but the distance didn't cure whatever was developing in her brain. When she moved back with her mother and stepfather Ryan Hoy at 14, the behavioral problems had intensified dramatically. By August 2013, when Isabella turned 18, the situation had deteriorated to a breaking point. Ryan later testified that Isabella had become increasingly threatening toward her mother. Most disturbingly, Yunmi Hoy had begun to fear her own daughter. This fear broke Yunmi's heart because she loved Isabella deeply. She kept hoping she could somehow get through to her daughter, but Isabella seemed to be slipping further away from reality. The day after Isabella spit in her mother's face, Yunmi opened her email to find a chilling 3-word message: "You will pay." But here's where things get strange. The email was addressed to someone named Cecilia, not to Yunmi herself. Remember that name, Cecilia? It changes everything about this case. Frightened by the threatening email and escalating tensions, Yunmi contacted police. She hoped law enforcement might defuse the situation before it spiraled out of control. Since Isabella was 18, Yunmi had every legal right to remove her from the house, but she didn't want to take such drastic action. She still believed there might be a way to reach her daughter. When officers arrived and spoke with Isabella, they explained that if she didn't start showing respect, her mother had every right to ask her to leave, but the message didn't seem to be getting through. Isabella remained largely silent and showed little reaction to the warnings. She was already living in a different reality. Hoping family might have better success, Yunmi contacted Isabella's biological father, Robert. She knew Isabella had always maintained a better relationship with him. Robert agreed to try talking with his daughter. He described sitting with Isabella in the backyard, having what he thought was a meaningful conversation about respect. Robert genuinely believed he had gotten through to her. He would later realize how tragically wrong he was. But by this point, there was no getting through to Isabella. Her mental illness had progressed to such a severe state that rational conversation was no longer effective. That evening, around 9:30 p.m., Yunmi returned home from work, bringing McDonald's for herself and her husband, Ryan. Such a normal detail, a mother bringing home fast food. She had no idea she was walking into the last few minutes of her life. Yunmi and Ryan talked briefly. At one point, she asked if he knew where Isabella was. Ryan told her he hadn't seen Isabella for about an hour. Given everything that had happened, calling police, receiving that threatening email, the ongoing tensions, Yunmi must have felt incredibly anxious. Yunmi told Ryan she was going upstairs to take a quick shower, such an ordinary decision after a long, stressful day. She had no way of knowing that Isabella was already upstairs, waiting, her mind completely consumed by delusions that would turn her own daughter into her executioner. Within minutes, Yunmi was fighting for her life. Ryan soon heard heavy thumping sounds from the bathroom, followed by a blood-curdling scream. Initially, he thought Isabella might be physically fighting with her mother using her fists, so he rushed upstairs to stop what he assumed was another family argument. But when he reached the top of the stairs, he discovered something far worse. The bathroom door was slightly open, but as Ryan approached, Isabella suddenly pushed against the door from inside and locked it. He was trapped outside, helpless, while something horrific was happening just feet away. The thumping sounds continued. Then Ryan saw blood seeping out from underneath the door. Not just drops, but a steady flow that told him this was no ordinary fight. Panic overtaking him, Ryan ran downstairs to call 911. On the phone, he frantically tried to explain what was happening, sounds of violence from the bathroom, blood coming out from under the door. As he spoke to the dispatcher, Ryan ran back upstairs, desperately hoping he might break down the door and save his wife. That's when he heard Yunmi's last words, spoken with her final breath, Jehovah.
I'm not sure what happened with the knife she was carrying. It looked like she was still holding on to it. And I looked down and I saw my wife on the floor, blood everywhere, all over the bathroom. I was talking to the dispatcher, and the dispatcher told me, make sure you get her breathing again, get her airways open. I don't know CPR.
Then, to his complete shock, the door simply opened. Isabella casually walked out with a completely blank expression, still holding a bloody knife. When Ryan looked past her into the bathroom, he saw his wife lying motionless, surrounded by an unimaginable amount of blood. The dispatcher instructed Ryan to start CPR, but even he could see there was no hope. Yunmi's injuries were too severe. In that moment, Ryan realized he had lost his wife forever, and the stepdaughter he had tried to help raise had become her killer. Emergency services arrived at 10:16 p.m., only 11 minutes after Ryan's frantic 911 call. By 10:28 p.m., Yunmi Hoi was officially pronounced dead. The scene first responders encountered was absolutely brutal. Yunmi had been stabbed 79 times, with 31 wounds to her face and 48 to her neck and torso. Officers also found a baseball bat next to her body, but Isabella was nowhere to be found. She had simply vanished into the night. Police immediately issued a BOLO alert, warning the public that she was armed and extremely dangerous. They attempted to track her cell phone, but she had turned it off, making it clear that despite her apparent mental state, she retained enough awareness to try to avoid capture. The manhunt continued through the night and into the next day. For 16 hours, Isabella remained at large while police searched everywhere. The community was on edge. Finally, on August 29th, around 2 p.m., police received a tip. Someone had called to report what they thought was a dead body in the back of a Jeep in an Aurora parking garage. When officers arrived, they discovered it was actually Isabella, sleeping and covered in her mother's dried blood. By the time police made contact, Isabella wasn't in the Jeep anymore. She was found just outside the parking garage along with the murder weapon and a backpack full of her belongings. She was still wearing the same outfit, a pink sports bra and turquoise shorts now stained with blood. Investigators also discovered that Isabella had visited an H-Mart bathroom after fleeing the scene. Surveillance footage captured her entering the store while covered in blood. Incredibly, she had interacted with other customers who were shopping there. None of them called 911, apparently believing Isabella's story that she had been sexually assaulted and didn't want police involvement. When Isabella was finally taken into custody, her arrest went smoothly. She didn't resist or try to run. But what happened next in the interrogation room would prove to be one of the most bizarre interviews in criminal justice history. The interrogation footage reveals something truly disturbing about Isabella's mental state. Subscribe to Women of Crime to see how investigators piece together cases where reality and delusion collide.
So she's 110 pounds? That's really skinny. I'm 148 pounds.
Isabella, please.
Don't call me Isabella. That's really
That's your name.
freaky. My name is not Isabella. My name is Samantha. There are people in this world that look alike, you know? You guys are not, like, all-knowing. You don't know everything. You're just accusing me of all this stuff that I didn't do.
That's you.
No, it is not.
There's no question. That's you.
She's pretty.
Yeah, you're a pretty girl. That's you.
But that's not me.
Yeah, that's up your Facebook account.
She's a singer?
It's not even a funny game anymore.
Why would she kill anybody?
That's what we want to know.
You left her to die, brutally, on a bathroom
I did
floor.
not murder anyone. Please
that
stop
feel?
accusing me of this.
Just tell me how that feels.
Please fingerprint me. Please fingerprint me. Please fingerprint me. I will show you that I am not this freaky, horrible person. Don't call me Isabella. That's
your
freaky.
name?
My name is not Isabella. My name is Samantha. There are people in this world who look alike, you know.
The detectives weren't buying her story. They kept trying to get Isabella to admit the truth, but from her perspective, she was telling the truth. In her fractured mind, she really was Samantha Gonzalez.
We know what you know what you did, and we know who you are. We know how it happened,
Apparently not,
when it
because
happened.
you guys are completely wrong. You got the wrong girl.
No, we don't. We don't have the wrong girl, and you know that.
No, I don't.
How did it feel?
How did what feel?
When you did what you did, how did it feel?
I didn't kill anybody. That's
Did it
disgusting.
it feel good?
That's disgusting. You guys really think I'm a murderer?
Yeah, we're not joking.
Did it make you feel powerful?
Ew. Just you.
The story Isabella told was incredibly detailed and consistent. She described being a 15-year-old runaway from Ohio looking for her boyfriend, who had somehow ended up in Colorado. She claimed this was all a case of mistaken identity and that DNA testing would prove she wasn't the person they were looking for. But perhaps the most chilling moment came when detectives brought in Isabella's biological father, Robert, hoping that seeing a familiar face might break through her psychological barriers.
Who's that?
That's my baby.
Okay.
Sir, do you recognize this?
Who are you?
Hey, Robert, why don't you come on back out here for a second? Do you recognize her?
Yeah, she's my daughter.
What's her name?
Isabella
Isabella. What's her last name?
Guzman.
Isabella Guzman. Okay. This photograph here. Is that photograph? Is that your daughter there?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is your daughter here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when Robert approached his daughter with tears in his eyes, hoping that paternal love might penetrate whatever was happening in her mind, Isabella looked at him with the same blank expression.
Is he insane? Does she have like a crazy family? Like a completely crazy family? Is that why she's psychotic and killed her mom? My name is Samantha. Who is that man?
Imagine being a father and having your own daughter look at you like you're a complete stranger. Robert broke down completely, and investigators realized that they were dealing with something far more complex than a teenager trying to avoid consequences. In June 2014, something happened that changed everything about how this case was understood. Isabella entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, backed up by extensive psychiatric evaluation that revealed the full extent of her condition. A forensic psychiatrist testified that Isabella was suffering from paranoid schizophrenia and had been experiencing severe delusions and hallucinations in the weeks and months leading up to the incident. The doctor explained that Isabella genuinely believed her mother had been replaced by a woman named Cecilia, and that voices were commanding her to eliminate this imposter in order to save the world. This wasn't teenage rebellion or family conflict gone wrong. This was severe mental illness that had completely hijacked Isabella's perception of reality. The psychiatrist also testified that Isabella had been experiencing command hallucinations, voices that weren't suggesting she take action, but were ordering her to do so. In her delusional state, she believed she was following commands from external forces to protect innocent people from danger. Isabella's boyfriend at the time provided testimony that supported the mental illness diagnosis. He described how Isabella had been saying things that didn't make sense and seemed to be experiencing a different reality than everyone around her. The psychiatric evaluation revealed that Isabella's condition was treatable. While her psychotic break had led to tragic consequences, medical professionals believed that with proper medication and therapy, her symptoms could be controlled and she could potentially recover. Even District Attorney George Brauchler, known for taking tough stances on violent crime, recognized that this case was different. After reviewing all the psychiatric evidence, he made the unusual decision not to contest Isabella's insanity plea. The judge accepted Isabella's not guilty by reason of insanity plea and sentenced her to an indefinite stay at the Colorado Mental Health Institute in Pueblo. Unlike a traditional prison sentence, Isabella's commitment would continue until medical professionals determined she was no longer a threat to herself or society. The transition to the mental health facility marked the beginning of a long journey towards psychological stability. The Colorado Mental Health Institute operates differently from a traditional prison. Instead of focusing on punishment, the facility's mission is treatment and rehabilitation. For Isabella, this meant a highly structured daily routine designed to address her schizophrenia while helping her process the trauma of her actions. As her psychotic symptoms were controlled through medication, she would eventually have to face the devastating reality of what she had done during her mental health crisis. Dr. Richard Pounds, the forensic psychiatrist who oversaw Isabella's care, documented her progress through detailed reports to the court. The antipsychotic medications proved effective in reducing her hallucinations and delusions. For the first time in months, Isabella was able to maintain a consistent grasp on reality, but as her psychotic symptoms improved, Isabella faced a new and perhaps even more difficult challenge: processing the full impact of what had happened. As her connection to reality strengthened, she began to experience what psychologists call survivor guilt and perpetrator trauma. Isabella's treatment plan included individual therapy 3 times per week, group therapy for patients with psychotic disorders, medication management, and structured activities designed to help her develop coping skills. The facility also provided educational opportunities. Since her arrest had interrupted her final year of high school, Isabella was able to complete her GED and even began taking college-level courses in psychology and social work. After 18 months at the facility, Dr. Pounds noted significant improvements in Isabella's mental health and psychological functioning. She demonstrated excellent medication compliance and had shown no signs of psychotic symptoms for over a year. She had developed insight into her mental illness and showed appropriate emotional responses when discussing her actions. However, the report also noted ongoing challenges. Isabella continued to struggle with depression and anxiety related to her actions, and she had expressed suicidal thoughts on several occasions. Then, in 2020, something unexpected happened that would thrust Isabella back into the public eye. The courtroom footage of Isabella's bizarre behavior from 2013 began circulating on social media platforms, particularly TikTok, where it would eventually gain millions of views. The viral phenomenon began when a TikTok user posted a compilation of Isabella's courtroom footage, focusing on her smirking and pointing at her eyes during the arraignment hearing. The video was captioned with text suggesting Isabella was iconic and unbothered by the serious charges against her. What started as a single viral video quickly spread across multiple platforms. Within months, hashtags related to Isabella's case had accumulated over 200 million views. The videos portrayed Isabella's psychotic behavior as entertaining rather than as symptoms of severe mental illness, completely ignoring the tragic loss of Yoon Mi-hoi's life. The viral trend was deeply troubling to mental health advocates, legal experts, and the families affected by the case. Comments flooded in talking about how pretty Isabella was, with songs like Sweet But Psycho playing in the background. People were praising her for her beauty and completely overlooking the fact that a mother had died and a young woman's mind had been shattered by mental illness. Some comments included disturbing statements like, "Well done," "I've fallen in love with her," "I would fix her," and "she's kinda cute." The fact that people found it acceptable to romanticize someone's worst mental health crisis and turn a family's tragedy into entertainment was deeply concerning. Ryan Hoy, Isabella's stepfather and Yoon's widower, spoke publicly about the viral videos for the first time in 2021. The viral phenomenon also created additional challenges for Isabella's treatment team. Learning that her worst moments had become entertainment for millions of people created another layer of trauma and shame that had to be addressed in therapy. Meanwhile, Isabella's recovery continued at the mental health facility. By 2020, after 7 years of intensive treatment, she began petitioning for conditional release. In November 2020, Isabella spoke publicly about her case for the first time since her arrest. In a carefully controlled interview, she addressed what had happened and shared details about her experience in treatment. She spoke about being a victim of abuse growing up, saying that her parents, who raised her as a Jehovah's Witness, had abused her, and that the abuse worsened when she decided to leave the religion at age 14. Isabella also described how difficult her mother's death had been for her, and mentioned that she had been injured during the incident as well, showing scars on her hands. She emphasized that she wasn't herself when the tragedy occurred, and that she had since been restored to what she called full health.
I was not myself when I did that, and I have since been restored to full health. I was abused at home by my family for many years. My parents are Jehovah's Witnesses, and I left the religion when I was 14, and the abuse at home worsened after I quit. The fight with my mom was terrible, and I was injured in the process. I have the scars on my hands. I don't know if you can see or not. I'm not mentally ill anymore. I'm not a danger to myself or others. If I could change it, or if I could take it back, I would.
Isabella also revealed that during her time at the Colorado Mental Health Institute, she had been sexually assaulted 3 times by someone who worked there. She filed a report with hospital police in 2015 and wanted to press charges against her attacker, but according to her account, the district attorney's office told her the way the report was written would make it difficult to prosecute. As of 2021, Isabella was granted permission to leave the institution for supervised group and individual therapy sessions, but her activities were monitored with GPS tracking. These supervised outings represented the first steps toward potential community reintegration, though full release remained uncertain. The Isabella Guzman case ultimately represents both a tragedy and a testament to the power of proper mental health treatment. It demonstrates that even the most severe psychotic episodes can potentially be treated and managed, while also highlighting the devastating consequences when mental illness goes unrecognized and untreated. The case raised fundamental questions about redemption, recovery, and public safety. Isabella had clearly made remarkable progress in managing her mental illness and developing insight into her actions, but the severity of what happened that night in August 2013 meant that any decision about her future would have to balance her individual rights with the community's need for safety. For Ryan Hoy and other family members, Isabella's potential release brought up complex emotions. While some family members had come to understand that Isabella's actions were the result of severe mental illness rather than inherent evil, they also had to live with the permanent loss of Yunmi Hoy. Cases like Isabella's show us how complex the intersection of mental health and justice really is. For more in-depth coverage of true crime cases that challenge our understanding of psychology and the legal system, subscribe to Women of Crime. We dig deeper than the headlines to explore the human stories behind these tragedies. As Isabella continues her journey toward potential reintegration, her case remains a living example of the complex relationships between mental illness, violence, recovery, and justice. Whether she ultimately gains conditional release or remains institutionalized, the lessons learned from her experience will continue to influence how society responds to similar situations. The question that remains is whether society is ready to accept that redemption is possible even after unthinkable acts, and whether we have the courage to balance compassion with caution as we navigate these complex cases where mental illness and violence intersect. The final chapter of Isabella Guzman's story has yet to be written, but the lessons from her case will endure long after her legal proceedings conclude. In the intersection of mental health and criminal justice, her case stands as both a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope, showing us the worst that can happen when mental illness goes untreated, while also demonstrating the remarkable human capacity for healing and recovery when proper resources and support are available.